It is 1:14 in the morning, and you are sitting on the edge of your bed with your phone in your hand, looking at a number you have spent 10 years not looking at. $0 available balance. The savings account you opened at 23 and funded exactly twice. You are 30 years old. The decade that was supposed to build something is over, and this small gray number on a screen is what it built. You don't cry. It isn't dramatic. It's quieter than that. A flat, cold arithmetic that arrives all at once. 10 years of paychecks, 10 years of all start next month, 10 years of a balance that never moved because you never once made it move. The screen dims and you turn it back on as if the figure might have changed in the dark. The room holds still for a moment. No music, just Kendra and the glow of the screen, the kind of quiet that only exists at 1 a.m. It hasn't. Around you is the evidence of where it all went, and the cruel part is that none of it was a crime. A few concert wristbands you never threw out, 3 trips you couldn't afford and took anyway, a car you leased because the monthly payment looked small next to a salary that felt at the time infinite, 1,000 dinners, a decade of small yeses, not one of them wrong on its own, all of them adding up to a number that is now 0. You open the compounding calculator the same way someone much younger might, the way the internet keeps telling you to. You type in what a disciplined version of you would have done. $300 a month starting at 22, 8 years, 7%. The figure it returns is not a fortune, but it is not 0, and the distance between that figure and 0 is the exact shape of what you skipped. Then it shows you the worst thing. Those 8 years of contributions, if you had simply left them alone, would have kept growing for the next 30 years without you adding a single dollar. And that silent, untouched growth dwarfs the contributions themselves. The earliest dollars are the ones with the most time to multiply. Those are precisely the dollars you did not save. You didn't only skip the money, you skipped the part of the money that does the real work, the part that compounds while you sleep. And that part does not come back. The chart holds still on screen a beat longer than expected. No new numbers, just the shape of what was missed sitting there. It is the one thing in this entire story that does not come back. So you sit with the word wasted. It has been circling all night, and it fits so well it feels like a diagnosis. You wasted your 20s. You say it to yourself in the dark, and it has the awful clean ring of something true. Here is what nobody tells you about that word at 1 o'clock in the morning. Regret is a feeling that arrives easily and pays nothing. It will sit with you as long as you let it, and it will never once add a dollar to the account. It feels like accountability. It is not. Accountability is a transfer. Regret is just weather. And the diagnosis is wrong anyway. The 20s were not empty. They were unsaved, which is a different thing. You have friends from those trips. You know what you like and what you don't, what you'll tolerate and what you won't, which is knowledge most people pay for in their 30s with worse interest. You were learning who you were on a decade where the tuition happened to be every dollar you earned. Expensive, not worthless. The mistake was never the living. The mistake was telling yourself the saving could wait, and then believing it month after month until the months became the decade. You set the word down, not because it's false, because it's finished. You cannot save a dollar in a year that's already gone. You can only do something with the years that haven't started yet. You make a decision that night, not a goal, a decision. They feel like the same thing, and they are not. A goal is a wish with a number attached. A decision is the moment the wishing stops. You are 30, salary $58,000, the most you have ever made. And for the first time, the most you have ever made is going to mean something other than the most you have ever spent. You open a brokerage account and a Roth IRA in the same week. You move in $300. It is not a heroic amount. It is the first dollar of yours in 30 years of dollars that is working instead of waiting. You set the transfer to automatic, the first of the month, before you can have an opinion about it, before the money can be claimed by something louder. You buy 3 boring index funds and you do not check the price the next morning. You cancel 2 subscriptions you'd forgotten you had. The leased car goes. A paid-off used one takes its place, and the difference routes straight into the account. Your savings rate, which has been 0 your entire adult life, crosses 22%. Net worth crosses $20,000 for the first time. You are not excited. Something has shifted anyway, and you can feel the difference between a number that sits and a number that moves. You are 32. You have started doing the thing the saver who began at 22 cannot do anymore. You are using your peak earning years instead of your peak spending years. You asked for the raise and got most of it. You changed jobs once for $11,000 more and did not upgrade a single thing about your life to match it. Your rent went up $40 at renewal, and that was the only thing about the way you lived that changed. This is the lever the late starter actually has, and it is worth understanding precisely. The one who started early had time and almost no money. You have money and less time, and money deployed in large enough amounts consistently does a meaningful share of what time does. Your savings rate is not 22% anymore, it's 30%, and almost none of that climb came from earning more. It came from refusing to let the spending follow the income up the stairs, the way it did for 10 straight years. Net worth $58,000, growing whether you check it or not. The gold light holds a beat longer than it needs to, steady, unhurried, before the sky outside the window darkens without warning. The market drops 27% over 7 months. Your portfolio falls from roughly $74,000 to about $54,000. On paper, $20,000 disappears. Nearly 2 years of your contributions gone, while you watch it happen 1 week at a time. A friend your age who started the same year you finally did sells everything in the worst week of it. He tells you he can't afford to lose it, not at his age, not starting this late, that people like the two of you don't get a second runway. You understand every word. You feel the pull of it in your own chest. You don't sell a single share. You keep the automatic transfer running straight through the bottom, which means every one of those dollars buys more shares than it did a year earlier. The late starter's first crash is heavier, and not because the percentage is different. It's heavier because the runway to recover feels shorter, because there's a voice that says you don't have the years to make this back, that this was the gamble and it failed. The room goes completely silent for a moment. No ticking transfer sound, no market noise, just Kendra sitting with the doubt. But the recovery does not consult your age. It doesn't know how old you were when you started or what you did with your 20s. It only knows whether you were still holding when it came. 16 months later, the portfolio is past where it began. His is still climbing back toward a number he used to have. He will spend years catching up to a place he already stood once, and those are years he cannot spend twice. You won't. Net worth $118,000. You are not behind the friend who started when you did. You are quietly ahead of him, and the only thing that separated you was a single decision made in a single bad week. You are 36. You earn $98,000. You live on about $54,000. The gap between those two numbers is the entire engine, and the engine is finally large enough to make its own noise. Last year, the portfolio grew by about $16,000 on its own before you added a dollar to it. The first time the account earned more in a year than you could have saved from a month of work, you read the statement twice and put it down slowly. This is the moment the wasted decade stops being a sentence you're serving and becomes a story you survived. You compressed nearly a decade of saving into 6 years because you had the income to compress it with. The early saver's advantage was time. Yours was force. Both, applied without flinching, arrive at the same place. They just take different roads, and yours is steeper and shorter and lit a little differently. Then comes the year nothing prepared you for. It begins in March when your father's car finally dies, and there is no version of the math where he replaces it himself. So you do, and feel the account flinch. In July, the company restructures and your role evaporates, and you spend 2 months interviewing in stolen lunch breaks while performing calm in meetings, pretending the floor is steady. You land the next role. It pays slightly less. In October, something in you simply runs out of road for a while. The discipline that built the account quietly turning into the thing you hide behind. And you realize, late, that money was supposed to serve a life, and it started replacing one. The lamp flickers once, not symbolic, just an old bulb, and Kendra doesn't get up to fix it. You contribute less than half of what you planned that year. The portfolio grows anyway, because the market does not read your calendar and feels nothing about your March. It crosses $190,000. You sit with the slippage, the missed transfers, the quiet date you've drawn yourself sliding further into the future. Then you remember the date was always invented. The freedom at the end of it is not. You adjust the plan and you keep the plan. That is the entire skill. And the one who wasted a decade learns it faster than most, because you already know exactly what it costs to let a year drift, and you are never doing that again. You are 40. The portfolio reads $290,000. You did not arrive here by being early. You arrived by being relentless in the years you actually had, and by refusing to flinch in the week the friends sold, and the year your father's car died. The thing about a wasted decade is that it does not have to be a verdict. It can be the thing that taught you, at brutal cost, exactly what waiting is worth. And the people who never wasted a day are often the ones who don't believe, deep down, that it could ever run out. You believe it. You watched it run out once. That belief turns out to be worth more than the decade you lost, because plenty of the early starters who had all that time threw it away. And you had less and kept every piece of what remained. You are 48, net worth $610,000. The two engines, what you earn and what your money earns, are now roughly the same size. A sentence that would have sounded insane to the person sitting on the edge of the bed at 30, staring at $0, and a word that felt like a sentence. She wasn't finished. She was late. And late is a different word with a different ending. Late means you begin behind and you close the distance with everything you have left. Finished means you never begin at all. The only people who are genuinely finished are the ones who decide that they are, and then use the decision as permission to keep waiting another year and another. You will not retire at 40 the way some of the people who started at 22 can. That door closed in a decade you spent elsewhere, and there is no use standing in front of it. But there is another door, and it opens later, and it leads to the same room. You cross into the part of your 50s where the work becomes optional before it becomes impossible, where a layoff is an inconvenience instead of a catastrophe, where you keep working because you chose the thing, not because the rent demands it. The freedom arrives. It arrives with a little gray at the temples instead of the smooth face of the early retiree. And it arrives every bit as real, every bit as yours. You are 30 again in the memory of it. 1:14 in the morning, the phone in your hand, $0 on the screen, the word wasted circling like it owns the room. You can feel the pull of the easy ending, that the decade is a verdict, that the race was lost before you understood there was one, that people who start this late are just funding a slightly more comfortable old age. You set the phone down instead. You make the transfer. $300 leave the account that has only ever held money still and go somewhere they will finally do something. It is the smallest amount of money and the largest thing you have done in 10 years. Outside, people your exact age are running the same math tonight and arriving at the easier answer, the one that lets them wait another year and another. They are not ahead of you, and you are not behind them. Behind implies a single finish line and a shared clock, and there is neither. A beat of total stillness, no counters, no charts, just Kendra sitting in the dark with the transfer confirmation glowing quietly in her hand. There is only the fork the late starter always reaches, The one with two doors. One is marked finished and it is wide and quiet and leads nowhere. The other is marked late and it is narrow and steep, and it opens eventually onto the exact thing the early version was always after. You don't announce which one you take. You just stop standing in front of it and start walking. The market opens again in the morning. It was never going to ask what you did with the years before you arrived. It only ever cared whether you finally showed up.